9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Discussing everything about the afterlife and spirit world. Coming to you all the way from Ireland, it's Sandie Byrne.
This is Sandie, host of the Life AfterLife podcast. I want to invite you to become a patron of the podcast. For just €5 per month, you will get ad-free content, video episodes, exclusive events and discounts throughout the year as a thank you for your support. Check out the link to my Patreon page in the description box attached, or go to Patreon and search for Life After Life with Sandie Byrne. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life After Life with me, Sandie Byrne. Now, in this episode, I wanted to talk about grief at Christmas time. Okay, so it's a slight sidestep from the spiritual stuff this week. But as it's Christmas week, I promise I will keep this short. I know that you all have lots more to be doing this week than listening to me drone on. But I do want to acknowledge grief, okay? I want to acknowledge that grief is hard. You know, it is. It's really hard. As they say here in Tipperary, there's no ifs, buts or two ways about it, okay? We never get over it. We never get over grief. The best that we can hope for is that we learn to live with it and that we find a way to smile and to cope with life without that person that we've lost. But you know, when we talk about Christmas time, grief can become a lot more pronounced during the holiday season. You know, Christmas, it's the worst when you're grieving. You know, that might be because the season is all about family and about spending time together, you know, and that in itself makes it lonely when you're missing somebody, okay? And, you know, I always find that Christmas, it's so magical and it's so full of excitement and anticipation. You know, everyone's excited and smiling and giggling. You know, my first instinct is to call someone, to tell them about, you know, preparations that I'm making or something that I've seen, or maybe send them a picture of decorations or whatever. But, you know, when that person isn't there with you for you to turn to them and say, oh, did you see that? Or, you know, even if they're not at the other end of the phone, you know, that seems to hang much heavier with us at Christmas time than at other times of the year. And I think that's because Christmas is so nostalgic. You know, it's a nostalgic time of the year. We can't help but reminisce about the years gone by, and, you know, this drags up memories of loved ones who have left us, you know, time that we spent with them, traditions that we did over the years, okay? Now, I will just point out right now that I'm not going to be talking about ways to include your loved ones in your Christmas celebrations here in this episode. Okay, that's an episode I did for Christmas last year. It was episode 69, and I will put a link to that episode in the description box below if you want to get some ideas of how to include your loved ones in your Christmas celebrations. In this episode, I just wanted to talk about the grief that we feel at Christmas time, okay? Because we know that we're grieving. If you've lost someone this year and you're spending your first Christmas without them, you know, you're very aware of that fact. The last thing that you need right now is for people to dance around that fact and pretend that it's not happening or that you haven't had a loss. Okay, so in this episode, I wanted to acknowledge your loss. Okay? If I or other people pretend that it's not happening, this will only make the process worse. So don't avoid how you're feeling, you know, because your grief will express itself at some point. So feel free to let it out now. Okay, there's no point in compounding it. You might try and, you know, hop or limp, as they say, through Christmas and, you know, pretend that everything's okay, but it's not. So don't. You know, tell people that you're struggling. Tell people that you don't want to celebrate Christmas. Tell people, you know, what you're feeling because they want to help you. And I am coughing my way through this episode, guys, because I'm struggling a bit with a throat infection. So bear with me. Now, on the other hand, for those of us who are supporting someone through their grief, okay, now I'm not saying that you're not grieving yourself. But sometimes we may have lost someone, but our day-to-day life isn't changed. Whereas if you've lost a partner or a child, for example, then your life is forever changed and you'll be looking for a new normal. One that you didn't ask for or one that you didn't want. But if you're supporting somebody, through grief, you might have lost somebody and it's very tragic. Don't get me wrong. I totally get, that it's been traumatic for you. But you might have lost maybe a grandparent, or you might have lost an aunt or an uncle that maybe you didn't spend every day with, okay? Or, your life for the greater part isn't changed. And after the funeral, you were able to return to your own home and get on with your own life. Whereas the person that's so, closely connected to the loss, they're looking for a whole new life and a whole new normal. So if you are supporting someone through this, change, if you want to call it that way, or their loss, listen to them at Christmas time, okay? Because as I've already said, their Christmas is now different. And they may not want to do the same things that they've always done. They may not even want to acknowledge that Christmas is happening at all. So listen, and I kind of smiled with that because, sometimes I don't even want to acknowledge Christmas is happening at all. There's lots of different reasons. I'm talking about loss particularly in this. But sometimes we're struggling financially or with mental health or various different things and we don't want to face Christmas. I acknowledge all of those things, okay? But here I'm talking specifically about grief. So I'm asking you to listen to what someone's telling you. Okay, don't try to change their mind. If they say they don't want to celebrate Christmas, that's fine. If they say that they want to be on their own for Christmas, then that's fine too. All you can do is let them know that you're there if they change their mind. Allow them as much time as they need to grieve. Okay? And also, if you're the one that's grieving, do be kind. Manage your expectations of the people around you. Because if you're not telling them how you're feeling, then they can't be mindful of it. And, people they absolutely will say the wrong things, okay? We can't help it. We're human. We want to help. But, we're uncomfortable, especially if you're Irish. I don't know, is it so much in other, cultures, but in Ireland, we tend to tiptoe around these things, okay? We don't want to hit it head on, and we're very uncomfortable maybe talking about grief. So, in trying to pretend that all these things aren't happening and trying to tiptoe around your feelings, inevitably we're going to say something that seems insensitive or out of place. Okay, it doesn't mean that we've forgotten that you're dealing with loss. But in being so mindful of it, we tend to come across as awkward. Okay, so tell us if something is upsetting you. Tell us if you want to be left alone. Okay? So really all I'm asking of you is to be patient with yourself and to be patient with others. It might help, this is just a suggestion, you have to decide what's right for you, but it might help if you got someone to do your shopping or your errands for you in the run up to Christmas. I'm sure the people around you would be glad to help, but when you're feeling vulnerable, you might not want to put yourself in the middle of crowds of people who are all laughing and they're all full of the Christmas spirit. You might want to be anywhere else except in the middle of all that happiness. There's nothing worse than when you're going through something in life that you're, in the shops or walking down the street and people are smiling and getting on with life around you. And it seems, I'm sure everybody has their own things going on in the background, but when you're going through something, profound, it seems like everybody else is just skipping through life and nobody has ever felt the way that you're feeling. Okay? To me, online shopping is a gift. Okay, I am an introvert at the best of times and I just love my online shopping. I hate browsing in shops, on a normal day because I always feel like they think, because I have to think things over really deeply in my head. And I always feel like the store detectives are watching me, suspecting me of shoplifting. So instead I do my browsing online. Now, I know that some of you will decide to go away for Christmas and I can definitely 100% see the appeal in this. A few years ago, my father-in-law passed away and we had to travel to London for his funeral. And it was only a few weeks before Christmas. And none of us felt particularly Christmassy after that. And for the first time ever that year, we decided to go out for Christmas dinner. And that was a tradition that we have upheld for the past 6 years. But this year, in 2023, we're having Christmas dinner at home. Okay, because there does come a time when you just have to face up to the new normal. Now, I'm not pontificating. I'm not telling you that you need to cancel your plans. I'm telling you that you need to do what is right for you. Because for us, going out was right for a while. Now we're finally ready to have that family Christmas at home again. Okay, we only delayed the inevitable really, but it did help us. So if you want to go away, go away. Okay, you know, there are times in life where we can only bear so much reality. Okay, so if you need to escape, then escape. And I wrote that down, and I think it might have been T.S. Eliot that said that, you know, in life we can only bear so much reality. So sometimes being faced with something every minute is too much. So if you need to find an escape, then find that escape and run for it. Okay? The most important thing to remember here is that there's no right or wrong. There's no good way or bad way. There is only what's right for you. Okay? Now, in my experience of meeting grieving people over the years, okay, and I have to say that I'm not a grief expert and I'm not a grief professional, but I know that those people who have had a good relationship with someone who passed away, they grieve hard, but on the whole, they deal with it better. Whereas those who didn't have a good relationship with a loved one, or maybe they have regrets about something, maybe they had an argument, or maybe they weren't there to say goodbye, for example, these people find it so much harder to accept the passing because they're blaming themselves. Okay, not for the passing, but for maybe the regret, you know, the fact that they weren't there, you know, the fact that, you know, they didn't reach out before this person died. There's loads of reasons why this might happen. But if this is you, please know that your loved ones do not carry any negativity over to the spirit world. Now, I did a whole episode on this in episode 55, okay? And you also might find listening to episode 41 helpful because it talks about how they see us from the spirit world, okay? So I will link both episodes in the description box attached below here. So look, I don't want to drone on. I just wanted to use this space to let you know that I'm aware that you're going through this. You know, I'm aware that you won't just get over it and be back to being the bright and happy person that you were before. Now, please God, you will be bright and happy person again soon, but you'll be different. And you'll be trying to hide your scars, afraid that people around you won't understand. I promise that I understand. When I was 14 years old, my granddad was dying of cancer. You know, he was very, very sick at Christmas. And he was so unwell that we as a family were called to the hospital just a week before Christmas to say goodbye. They were sure he wouldn't make it through that night, but he did. Okay, he rallied. The will to live is the most powerful will that you'll ever come across. Okay, and he rallied to a point where he was well enough to take out of the hospital and bring home for a few hours for Christmas dinner. And Kevin, that you hear me talk about so much, okay, he put everything into that Christmas and making it so special because we knew it would be my granddad's last Christmas. What we didn't know was that would also be Kevin's last Christmas because he had his fatal crash just 10 weeks after my granddad died. Okay, so every year I think about him organising his own last Christmas and it breaks my heart. So the memory of Christmas 1988 has stayed with me every year of my life since I was 14. And I talk about it still, and I probably bore everyone to tears with stories about that Christmas. But they still indulge me in it, okay? They still listen and agree. So if you can't, or if you feel that you can't, I'm sure you can, but if you feel like you can't talk to those around you, okay, I am here and I do understand. Okay, and that's what I just wanted to say on this Christmas week, is that I know you're grieving and I know that this is going to be the hardest Christmas that you have ever faced and hopefully ever will face in your lifetime. But people understand. Okay, they might come across awkward, they might say the wrong thing, they might assume a lot, but tell them. Okay, don't shout at them, don't sulk. Okay, we will try and understand you if you try and understand us. But if we both tip around each other, both of us are going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. Okay? So I'm tempted to sign off this episode by saying have a happy Christmas, but I know that some of you won't. And as I said, there's many reasons for that, whether it's loss or something different. But instead, I'm going to wish you a peaceful Christmas. And I hope that you all come through it a little wiser and a little more spiritual. Talk to the people that you're missing in spirit. Okay, because they miss you too. We sometimes forget that we're missing them, but they also miss us and they want to be here with us too. Okay, so for now I'll say goodbye, and I will see you in the next episode of Life After Life. So until then, take care and stay safe and have a very peaceful Christmas.
Discussing everything